Yo everyone, what's going on? Couriway here, and today I have a really awesome video that has been recommended by a lot of you. This is going to be 20 Minecraft speedrunning tips for anyone of any skill level. We're going to be going through beginner tips, experience tips, and more advanced tips as well. So if you are interested in videos like these, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Only a very small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you could hit that subscribe button, that would be amazing. We are getting very close to 10,000. We are only around 1K away at the time of recording this video, which is absolutely insane. If we were able to hit 10K by the new year, that would be nuts. Also, one other thing, I'm going to be starting streaming soon, so if you are interested in seeing Minecraft speedruns for world record attempts actually live, make sure you check out my Twitch, which will be linked in the description below. My goal is to hopefully start streaming within a week. Thank you all so much for watching. Let's get into the video. So the very first tip that I have is actually a very simple one that I think every single speedrunner should use. It is subtitles. So in your option settings, you want to go to options, music and sounds, and make sure you have show subtitles on. Now the reason that you do want that is mainly for lava pops, so you can hear lava pops a lot easier. You can see where they are. You can also hear silverfish hisses when you are in the stronghold as well. Those are probably the two most useful versions of subtitles, but you can also, you might be able to hear blaze crackles, you might be able to hear wither skeletons in the nether. Those could be really useful. You can hear piglin if you're stuck in the nether. There's a lot of really good uses for subtitles, and turning them on, I personally feel like, is a must-have if you are serious about speedrunning. A really big tip for ocean travel is making use of dolphins. Dolphins are actually faster than boats, and I think a lot of new runners aren't as aware of this as more experienced runners. But if you have the opportunity and you see a dolphin in the water, it's definitely really good to use that instead of a boat. You'll be able to go where you want to faster, and you can also see here I'm using a little trick where my camera is placed at the right part in the water, and that allows me to see a lot of space. If you're having a hard time dealing with piglin in the nether, don't be afraid to make some gold boots. They can be super easy to craft with the amount of gold you can get in the nether, and can be super useful if you're entering a bastion. This is a tech that even advanced runners use. A lot of runners don't feel comfortable going into a bastion unless they have gold boots. And if you're less experienced, it can also just help in general navigating the nether. It doesn't take too much time and can definitely save you time if you find yourself dying too much. There's no doubt that using a shield can be helpful for a beginner speedrunner, but sometimes the shield doesn't work how you want and you can still get hit by blazes. However, through my time playing, I've learned a trick that I've used a lot that I haven't seen many other speedrunners use, and it relies on standing on the block below the fences on blaze spawners. And for some reason, blazes can't hit you. I don't know the science behind it, but I have never gotten hit while standing on that. I believe the fireballs just get relocated to the fence, and the fence can't hit you on fire. Again, I don't know the science, but it has worked 100% of the time for me. COD strats is probably a term that you've heard a lot before in speedrunning, but I want to talk about how useful it actually is in runs. The basic concept is that you grab more hay bales than you need, and then use that hay bales to turn to wheat that you trade with a farmer for a wheat trade for 3 emeralds, and then use those 3 emeralds to get a bucket from a fisherman. Now, this is really, really good because what you're doing is if the village has a golem, which 99% of the time it's going to, you're basically guaranteeing yourself an iron pick, which is insanely useful for now runs with bastions. But if you're a beginner as well, it can just be super helpful to have a pick that's not breaking if you're doing classical strats and just mining the gold in the nether. Next up, we're going to be talking about good versus bad shipwrecks. So basically, the main thing that you want to remember is that this half of the boat, the back side, is the good half, and the front of the boat, this front side, is not the good half. This is the bad half. So the good half, why is this the good half? You get all the loot that you need in here. You get iron, gold, etc. You can get some emeralds too if you need to do villager trading for any reason. If you want to do arrow strats if you're a beginner. If you want to do COD strats like we just went over and skip the wheat part, you can grab those emeralds if you don't get enough iron and there's a village nearby, like there actually is on this seed right here. There's a village right there that those emeralds could be useful for. This loot is not generated the same every time. You're going to get random loot. And the other part of that makes this a good shipwreck is down here. You can get a buried treasure map, which we will go over in just a second. But this bad side, you're not going to get a lot over here. Sometimes it can be useful for food, but that is about it. The reason that it's still considered a bad side, even though you may get useful things in it, is that you are not going to get iron or anything here that you could theoretically use to make tools or make a lot of the game easier. Like you can get food, which is nice, but you can get food in the nether as well. So over here, this is what a typical bad shipwreck is going to look like underwater. You only have the front side here. You can see that there is only one chest, and it's not going to have that great of things. You can get a lot of food, like I said, which is nice, but you're not getting that iron, which you really want. And sometimes you can get super unlucky like this one and not even get a treasure map. Sometimes in these, you can get a treasure map, which can be very useful, but this one you cannot. So this is actually a very, very bad shipwreck. Here's another example of a bad shipwreck. However, this time, like I said, you can get a chest that is going to spawn a buried treasure map, which can be very useful. And this front end is the same. You're going to get food, some armor, and not too great things in the sense of making some iron tools. You're not going to get iron. You can't make a bucket. So that's what makes these shipwrecks bad. Obviously, you can follow the buried treasure map, which we'll go over in just a second. But I want to take a look at what a half of a good shipwreck looks like as well. And here's an example of a good half of a shipwreck. So as you can see, you have this back end part. They're pretty easy to tell once you get used to it underwater. You can see this one doesn't have that much iron, but I did get a diamond, which is nice for a diamond shovel. I still did get enough here for at least a bucket, a flint and steel, and a shield if I'd like, which is really nice. And then down here, you still have the part where you can get a buried treasure map, and that is going to allow you to get even more stuff. For example, in this shipwreck, it's very useful because I wasn't able to get enough iron for all the tools that I need. So I'd be able to go to this buried treasure and get more of iron, some food, maybe gold, and be able to make a lot more progress in this run. So we might as well talk about buried treasure now that we've discussed shipwrecks. And the main thing you want to remember with buried treasure is that it's always going to be on 9-9. So if you're in F3, which you'll see in a second, I'm going to go to block 9-9, and that is super useful. Sometimes it can be really hard to read the map, especially for me. I have very large issues reading the map. What I've learned that can really help me is that the map is always going to be top north, bottom south, and then east west on either side. I forget which side is what. I don't even remember. But it can be super useful. You can get a lot of things like you see here and continue on your merry little run. I know that when I started out speedrunning, one of the things that I struggled with the most was finding the end portal room. Now, I can't tell you exactly how to get to the end portal room because that's random, but I can tell you how to get to the starter staircase, which can be super useful because the end portal is normally pretty close to the starter staircase within 5 to 7 rooms most of the time. Now, how do you do this, you may ask? You do something called backwards doors. So as you can see, I'm running through the stronghold and I'm following only the backwards doors, and that gets me very quickly to the starter staircase. Then all that's left to do is navigate the stronghold and hope you go the right way and find the portal room. So I'm going to speed this one up for everyone because I think it'll just be better overall. But for triangulation, you want to throw your first die when you get out of the nether and then take the angle. Now the thing that I see a lot of people do, this angle is 170.8 by the way, and now we're just going to swap over to spectator and go quite a while with this. So you could see my portal was around -800, -12, right? So let's just say this is around 800 blocks away from the origin, and the origin is 0, 0. So strongholds can't spawn unless you're 1400 blocks away from 0, 0. So sometimes I see a lot of beginners like throw a lot of eyes, and if your portal's here, there's no reason to throw another eye. But this angle was about 170 until you get all the way out, like a pretty far way. You know, remember, you're not just adding the coordinates, you're not just adding -900 and -600. You are doing some math. I don't do the math, but there's some math involved, and it's not just adding those coordinates. So I probably wouldn't throw another eye until I'm getting to at least like 1,000. I'm probably throwing my second eye here, and I would do it on an angle. So what the thing about triangulation is, it's kind of in the name, but you're triangulating, you're creating a triangle, right? So I'm not creating a very big triangle if I'm just throwing this eye on the same angle that it was. So hypothetically, if this was a real run, I'd probably try and start my angle a bit off more and then throw another eye around here. And that would tell me that the stronghold is actually very close. This is a very close stronghold. So that's really cool. So we can remember where our first line was, kind of. We have our second eye, and if you don't remember where the first line is exactly, that's totally okay. You know, I'm just going to throw this again because I kind of forget where the angle was. Normally you wouldn't do this in a run, but I was talking and not paying attention. But this angle is -140, so we want to go this way for a bit, and you know, I've done this a lot of times, so I would say the stronghold's probably right around here-ish. but I'll throw another eye a bit farther out just to be safe. We'll throw one right here. And yeah, you can see the eye goes backwards. So there we have our triangulation. I know that the eye is just about here from doing these 2 throws. And if I dug down on 4-4, which is a strat I've talked about in my world record video, if I dug down right here, you could see that puts me directly in the starter staircase. So there you go. That's a very, very quick tip on triangulation. If this stronghold wasn't super close, let's say this stronghold, again, this is a very close stronghold. Let's say it was much farther out. What I would usually do is continuously throw eyes every about 300 blocks or so, 300 to 400 blocks, just to make sure that you don't pass it if you have the blaze powder. If you don't have the blaze powder, maybe be a bit more conservative on your eye throws, and maybe do about 500 blocks or so just to make sure that your eyes don't break. It may take a bit more time, but it's better than not finishing the run at all, right? So that's some quick and easy tips for triangulation. The last thing we're going to be going over in the beginner section is one cycling the dragon. I'm going to leave a link to this map in the description down below. It's called Emma's Epic End Practice. It is a very, very, very good map to practice one cycles. I'm pretty sure that all the top speedrunners use it, including myself. You can use a full block, a slab, or a custom platform, which I am currently using. And one cycling is super, super simple once you get the hang of it, but you do have to get the hang of it. You have to practice it a lot. Sometimes it takes people many hours to get the one cycle. Other people, it may come a bit faster too, but it's something that you definitely want to feel very confident in. You don't want to go through a run that's on PB pace and then screw up your one cycle. That's not what you want to do at all. So just going over it in practice, this is using the custom platform with Obsidian. I always use hitboxes, F3B, but I'll show that without as well. And you want to just press it when the dragon's head is over the top of the bed, or the green part is over the top of the bed. And normally you can do this in about 5 beds. This should be a 5-bed dragon if I don't screw up the last one. And of course I do for a very, very mediocre 6-bed. But that's for me. You know, it doesn't matter if you do it in 9 beds and that's, you know, that's what you're getting. That's what you're getting. You know, you just want to be able to finish it and not choke it. That's what's super important. And like I said, practice it more and you'll be able to do it better. This is without F3. It's a bit harder. I definitely recommend doing it with F3, but I'll show it just for practice. Yeah, this is way harder for me. Not what I'm used to, but still got it in 6, so not too awful. But like I said, I highly recommend using hitboxes, which is F3 and B on your keyboard. And we can do one quick full block, which is what I'm usually used to. And you know, you can also do slab as well. But if you did want to do full block, it's just like this. I hold shift when I do it on full block. I highly recommend you do as well if you do it this way. And just place the bed on the top of the platform. And one cycle the dragon like this when the green is above the bed. Just like so. And that'll conclude the beginning section. Let's move on to more experienced tips now. The first thing we're going to be going over in the experienced tier is something you can do with desert temples. So normally when I go into desert temples, I usually go in with 3 or 4 pieces of wood, and that way I can make a wooden pickaxe when I go down there and just go a little bit faster. But that really doesn't matter. The main point of this is using the TNT to blow up underneath you so you can get the stone. So as you can see, I'm grabbing the TNT. I'm going to place the TNT, a full block, and the pressure plate, and that is going to blow up all 4 of these chests, and I'm just going to be able to get the loot faster. I'm also going to be able to get the cobblestone from the stone that you're going to blow up, and that is super useful for making your stone tools. That's why I only go in with the wood pickaxe, because then I'm able to get all of that stone. And I still have 8 TNT to work with, which is more than enough in 1.16.1 runs. The next thing we're going to be talking about is knowing which houses in villages have beds. This is very, very important, especially if you're more of a traditional runner and you like doing village strats. It can save you a ton of time if you know what houses to go into. So for example, I have a savannah village here. This is completely random, and I know exactly what houses have beds without having to go into any of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 houses with beds here. Actually 10, I missed this one too. That's actually insane for a savannah village, but the point is that I know that I don't have to go in half of these houses because they just don't have beds or anything that I need. I know this house has chests in it, but many times in this chest I will not get anything that I need. I don't need that bread because there's an insane amount of food other places in this village, and I know that these houses are just completely useless. And I know that, like I said, a lot of these houses have beds as well. This one actually is super interesting because you get beds that are connected, and this one also has a chest which actually had a bucket in it. Also for savannah villages, you want to know which houses have chests. So for example, we just saw that that one has a chest. I know that red houses have a chest, and I know that orange ones have a crafting table. So if I went here, I would see a crafting table. Those can all be very, very useful things for trying to figure out how fast you can do a village. And we're going to be talking about village routing in the advanced section, but at least knowing what houses have beds can be very, very useful. Now I want to talk about something called lake salts. This was originally brought to my attention from speedrunners K4 and Fyro. I don't think either of them have a set video on it. However, I've probably talked about their videos or something about them already in this video when I do the voiceovers. Their channels will be linked in the description. They are incredibly, incredibly talented runners and are super smart at the game. So definitely go check out their videos. I heard this in Fyro's stream, I believe, and basically the concept is if you see a pool of water on the surface, there is a chance that a lava lake tried to spawn underneath it, which is really, really interesting. I don't know the exact science behind it. I'm not a big Minecraft science person. That's not my forte. I just play the game really fast. But for example, you can see right here, there's a lake. And if I went underneath, there's a lava lake right here. This is like insane. You can see that there's lava pops on the surface. It is not always going to be that easy. But again, there's 2 lakes right here. If I dug down, there's lava right here, which I would hear if I'm digging in between the middle of these. But if I even dug down on the right spot, I would dig directly into it, which is really good. And then you could see over here, there's a bunch more lakes and more lava all the way down here, which also spawned on top of another water lake. So you can see this is not just a thing that, like, it's not a very random thing. It is definitely scientifically proven that this is more likely. If you need to dig down for lava, I highly recommend doing something like this. Obviously, it's not going to work 100% of the time. Like if I go over here, I may miss. That's totally fine. You know, that's going to happen. But you can even see it in action down here in this cave. There's a water lake right here, lava lake right here, lava lake right here. So that's the concept. It's really cool. I wish I knew more about it. It's something that I really want to start using in runs when I don't see a lava lake and I have a village and I can just go right down. I think it can be extremely useful, and I highly recommend people try and use it for super fast nether entries. So we're going to go from one sciencey thing to another somewhat sciencey thing, and that is going to be talking about recognizing the types of bastions. So if you are not familiar, there are 4 different types of bastions that can spawn in the nether: housing, treasure, bridge, and stables is the one that I'm forgetting. And there's a YouTuber and streamer named Twag. I will leave his link in the description. He has done an insane amount of work with bastions. Fyro has as well, who I've talked about. His link is in the description as well. Definitely go check them out for more in-depth bastion tips. This, I think, it's just very important to kind of know which bastion is what almost right away. So I can tell instantly that this is housing. Actually, this is stables. I'm really smart. I was looking at it the wrong way. So I can see that there's 1 rampart here, 1 rampart here, 1 rampart here. If there's 3 ramparts like this, it's stables every time. That is a very, very good indicator. I can also tell because this is super flat, and again, it's very wide. Stables is extremely wide. And then if I was inside, I could also tell because of this bottom level right here is also always stables. So I'm not going to go super in depth in it because Twag and Fyro have done way, way better content that I could ever do on bastions. So I highly recommend you go check them out. Like I said, their links will be in the description. But knowing what types of bastions you get instantly is super important. I would say that bastions as a whole, like routing bastions and like 2-minute bastions, stuff like that, that is very, very more advanced in my eyes. But I think just knowing the type of bastion and kind of knowing where you might be able to get some gold, even if you don't know the full route, is definitely a more experienced thing for runners, and you want to know what you're dealing with. You don't want to be in a situation where you are unprepared in the nether when you have a very good spawn that an advanced runner may love. So highly recommend you go check out their content in the description. So if you've seen my world record video, blind travel is insanely useful. It took my really good run to world record pace, and it can take an average run to sub 20 pace. You can do a lot with blind travel. It is risky. However, I always highly recommend it if you're always playing for PB, and it's also just a super fun thing to do. And something about blind travel that you need to know is the coordinates that are good to blind travel. So we're going to be focusing on the first ring of the stronghold because I think that is much more important for the mass of people. I personally really only like doing first stronghold blind travel. I think doing second ring travel is a bit much. I always try and pearl back if I'm in a situation where second ring is possible. I'd rather pearl back and do first. So the coordinates that you need to know, I use 170 to 330 is the coordinates that I like to be in for blind travel. Now that's very, very wide coordinates. And when I say that, I'm talking about adding the raw numbers of my X and Z. So right now I'm at, let's say, X 70 and Z 260. Those coordinates add up to 330, which is kind of in my range, but a bit farther than I'd like. So if I was blind traveling from this fortress, let's say I got all my rods, I would probably want to blind travel around here. This is a nice spot. This is about 270. My real sweet spot, I like the 230 to 270 range. That's like my personal comfort zone. My blind travel in the world record added up to around 270. This here adds up to around 270. So I have not done this. I have absolutely no idea where this is going to take us. And let's just see if this blind travel is actually good or not. Go through and you'll see this will put us at 1700, 500, and it put us quite low. I'd imagine there's an ocean above us. Yeah. So that's why it put us very low for how high up we were. And now I'm going to throw an eye. I'm not going to locate the stronghold because, again, I have absolutely no idea where it is. And this is more realistic for if you're doing actual blind travel. So you can see it's taking us this way. All right, so let's see. Let's open our coordinates. So the eye is taking us this way. And both our one coordinate is going up. Our X is going up. And our Z is going down. Now what that means is that the stronghold could be anywhere here. We are in the stronghold ring, right? So the stronghold could be anywhere here. And it's actually right here. Wow. Oh my god. That's the power of blind travel. It's not fully open exposed, but you could see this is obviously the library. You could tell because of how gigantic and rectangular square it is. If you see something like this and it's more rectangular, it's probably the portal room. So that is actually insane. That's a really good example of blind travel. Like I said, I did not do this previously, and if we wanted to, we could talk. This is a really good example actually of our tip from earlier where we talked about backwards doors, right, in the beginner section. So if we wanted to use backwards doors here to find our starting staircase and hopefully help us find the portal room, we could go back this way. This is another one, and I would imagine this is the starter staircase right here. Perfect. And then from here we could go and try and find the portal room. I obviously have no idea where it is. I have not done this ahead of time, but the point is you can use it to your advantage in a lot of different ways. And blind travel, like I said, highly recommended. So I just finished recording the blind travel part where we talked about this, and I think it's really important to note, make sure you check an entire ocean stronghold. Make sure that when you see an exposed part over here, you do a quick little check in F5 or something, and then say, oh, there's a light source over there. Maybe I should check it out. And boom, it's the portal room. Because that would have saved probably around 2 minutes on a real run if I was actually paying attention. And this is a tip that I actually talked about a little bit in the video that I made talking about my biggest choke of my speedrunning career. This is actually very similar. So we saw this. We should have just gone a bit further and saw this. The only thing is that obviously there's an ocean monument here, so that is very risky if you do not have a milk bucket. So be careful would be my advice. That is extremely risky. I don't think there's much you could have done here anyway in this situation. So probably would have been smart to, I would say the play normally would be to see this, see the ocean monument. I would probably go here and then try and dig in under through this wall to stay away from the ocean monument as much as possible, and then just jump in from back here. And you're probably out of range, but I would be very careful. You know, in a real run, you just kind of have to deal with risks like that. So interesting little add-on to the blind travel part of this video. And the last experienced tier tip that I want to give you guys is to look into the hyper modern meta. Now, hyper modern is a term derived from K4, who I've probably talked about a ton already. K4 is an extremely smart runner, And I'll just talk about the basic premise of hypermodern. Hypermodern, in my eyes, is getting to the nether as fast as possible, skipping early game things. And a really easy way to do this is by using ocean strategies that we've talked about earlier in this video, like dolphins, like buried treasure, like good and bad ships. Things like that can really help you. I'll link K4's channel in the description. K4 and T-Wag also, who I talked about during Bastions, he did a video talking about underwater magma ravine portals, which can be very useful in hypermodern. Again, there's so much that goes into hypermodern that I could not cover it in one of these videos in a very cohesive way. And I think it's more important for you to see how it's done by the people who created it and are much better at it than I currently am. So highly recommend you go check them out in the description below. Let's move on to advanced tier stuff. So now we're going to move on to something that I really like, and that is village routing. This is something that I really tried to nail down when I was doing sub 10 attempts on the world record seed, and I think it's really useful and something that I want to do more in runs in general. I find it really interesting, and the basic concept is to do some checkboxes in your head for what you need from a village, and look at the village while you're running towards it to make sure you do the absolute most optimal route while going there. So, for example, the first thing that I always do when I'm looking for a village, let's say I spawned here, right? Let's say I spawned all the way over here. I'm going to run to it in F5, and I'm going to look for a blacksmith. By about here, I'm going to realize that there is not a blacksmith, right? You know, I could see a majority of this village unless there's something behind those trees that I can't see. Obviously, I'm not going to see that house when I'm down here, but I'm going to think that there's no blacksmith. Okay, so what then is the most valuable thing that I need from this village? Well, it would be beds and food, right? And having a hotel is probably the second most valuable building that you're going to get behind a blacksmith. So then my immediate move is I'm going to go to this house right here. So I know that I need food too. I'm going to see food on the way. And the other thing you want to do is you want to take note of where the golem is. So I know the golem's here, right? And I know that the first house that I'm going to is here. So, and in a seed like this, let's say, I would probably do something more hyper modern where I would go out into the ocean to then look for a way to get into the nether, like a lava ravine or just an underwater cave that I can lead to lava, something like that, right? So I know my end goal is over there, my starting point is here, and I need to get here at some point. Now all of that is good, but I also need food. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to run over here and I'm going to grab this house, get the 4 beds. Now I know that doing something like this where I'm already doing hypermodern, I'm probably cool with 4 beds. I might grab a 5th on the way. So what I would do is I would grab the 4 beds here. I would then use these logs to make my tools. So that'd be 6 stone. I'd have my tools. Then I would be able to grab this hay right here. Or if I wanted to, I could wait and go down here, kill the golem, grab this hay right here too. Grab my 14 pieces of hay, do the cod bucket tray that we talked about before, have an iron pick, have a bucket, and be on my way into the ocean. I wouldn't have to grab a second house because I know I have to come back here and I can grab this second house on the way, right? So if I'm running this, again, we're spawning over there. I'm running all the way here. I'm grabbing this house first, then making my tools, then going to the golem, then going to the ocean. And that is that. So village routing is super good. Instead of, you know, if you're spawning over here, like we started, you know, some people might just say, oh, close house here, stuff over there that I need. And then you're making too long of a trip. You're going to have to go here to here to here to here instead of going boom, boom, boom. You're doing an extra step, right? So it's not going to seem like you're saving a lot of time, but it actually can save an insane amount of time if you're doing it correctly, and it's a village that normally would be hard to traverse. Blacksmiths can also save a ton of time with this if you get the iron or the iron pickaxe that you need for tools, but hotels are also a massive time save as well. So that's the basic of village routing. This is something that I'm definitely going to talk about more in streams and do more in streams. But I wanted to kind of show off this concept. I haven't really seen anyone talk about it really in a video, how important routing really is in a village. And I think it definitely can be more advanced, even though it may seem simple on the surface. So I wanted to include it here. On to the next one. Next, we're going to talk about something really interesting called monument strats. Basically, how this works is in a ocean monument, you have a chance to get gold blocks in the back of them. I'm using a cow in this demo. Some people do it without cows. If you get very lucky, you don't need a cow. I'm doing a cow in the demo because it allows me to play a lot more safe. This is also a very sloppy version of it because I'm not too comfortable with ocean strats yet since I haven't practiced too much since coming back. But the main premise is you can find this dark prismarine cube, which I just found here. And you can place a door, as I try to do, and get the 8 gold blocks inside. And basically, you have a bastion in your pocket heading to the nether. You may be a bit skeptical. I certainly was at first, but this can be a real strategy. And I got hit by mining fatigue at the end there, but I have a milk bucket from the cow, so I'm totally fine. Even if you don't have a cow with you and you're able to still get the gold blocks, it's great because you can just find a cow later on and then use it. It can be a very risky strategy, but it can also be very, very rewarding. So definitely use at your own risk. I wouldn't advise it to beginning runners, but if you're looking for something new to try, monument strats can be super interesting. So now I want to talk about taking fall damage. You might be thinking, Curry, well, obviously I know that I don't want to take fall damage. That's not good in a run. You don't want to take damage. Well, yeah, you'd be right. You don't want to take fall damage. But specifically, I'm not talking about like using a boat or something to go down big gaps like this. I'm talking about in a situation, can you minimize the amount of fall damage that you're going to take everywhere? You don't want to take damage, especially if you're in a hyper modern run, like something like if you had an inventory like mine, you only have 3 cooked fish. Obviously, I know I'm not in survival right now, but I'm just trying to make the point currently of you don't have a lot of food. You're in a biome like this maybe, and you got to get down. You don't want to take damage. So you need to be able to place blocks where you know you're not going to take damage. And that can be really challenging. You know, you need to have good awareness of when you're going to take fall damage. It is 4 blocks on normally. If you're jumping off a block, it's going to be 3. So if I was jumping off this down to here, I'd take a heart of fall damage. If I was on 4 blocks going down to here, I would take half a heart or a heart. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it really does add up. So you want to be able to make sure that you know how much you're about to drop. And if you're about to drop, you want to make sure that you place a block so that you don't take that damage. The last 2 things we're going to talk about is in the end. So first thing I want to talk about is a very, very simple technique called ender pearling. Obviously, you know what ender pearling is, but in this specific sense, if I swap to survival, let me eat a piece of bread or 2, and I want to get super high, right? We know how in perching strats, you want to be far away from this tower. You want to be far away, you want to be high up, and it's going to make the dragon perch faster, right? So instead of water bucketing up normally, someone actually left a comment on the original world record video on doing something like this. And it's super useful if you get the hang of it. Basically, you ender pearl, you place a block right underneath you, and then you just tower up. And it saves you a ton of time. And look, now I'm over here. I still have an ender pearl. The dragon is on the other side and getting ready to perch. So that can be super, super, super useful. Obviously, I'm not going to, perch and do the 1 cycle right now. But the premise is it can make it a lot easier and save a lot of time. So I highly recommend if you get comfortable and practice it, ender pearling up a tower instead of water bucketing can save you around 5 to 10 seconds. And, in leaderboard talk, it can be really big. The final thing we're going to be going over is north-south perching. This is, again, something that has been done by K4. Also, someone named Jojo. He is extremely smart as well. I will leave his channel in the description as well. Basically, this is quote-unquote the fastest way on average to get a perch. It is really, really good. The basic premise is that the dragon doesn't have to spiral the tower when you perch. Normally, if you're doing east-west, which is the way that I do in my world record and most runners have done, it can take a bit longer because the dragon has to spiral around the tower, and that can take upwards of 15 to 20 seconds. If you're doing north-south and you get really lucky, it can bypass that. Well, what I mean is north-south will always bypass that, but if you get really lucky, it can be a crazy fast perch. You don't have a lot of time to react, and it can be really hard. You don't have that spiral to be like, okay, the dragon's going to perch soon. You have to be watching really closely and make sure that you catch when the dragon is going to perch, because if you miss it, that's it. The run's dead, right? And then you just have to nail the 1 cycle. And once you do that, game over. Thank you all so much for watching this video. This has been insane to put together. I was not expecting it to be this long of a video. I wasn't really expecting it to be longer than 10 or 15 minutes, but I do hope you all did enjoy it and learn something. Let me know with a comment down below if you did get this far in the video, and if you did, what was your favorite thing that you learned? Do you want to see more videos like this in the future? I thought this was really interesting. It was fun to put together, and I hope, truly hope, that at least one person learned one thing, and then this video is worth it. So thank you all so much for watching. Remember to leave a like and subscribe, and follow my Twitch, which will be in the description. And I promise, I know I've been saying this for a while, but I promise you, Twitch streams will be soon, and I'm very excited to get back at it. I am excited to see you there. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.